Okay, welcome back, guys. Core, hello. How are you?
Doing all right. Enjoying a good week of football. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. The Bears somehow, some way,
Mm-hmm.
first place in the NFC North. The truce with the Philadelphia Eagles is complete. They've gone 3-0 against the NFC North, and guess what? We've gone 3-0 against the NFC East.
hmm
There's a chance both teams could go 4-0
yeah.
against each division. Only problem with that is in 2 weeks, the Bears face the Eagles. So
Mm.
the only way this ends is a tie. I know one of my college buddies has sent me. He's an Eagles fan, and he's been sending me different clips and stuff like that, like
hmm
saying like how the Eagles and the Bears have been helping each other out. It's kind of crazy to see how many heart attack games the Bears have been in. Um, but I just got to say this: Will Lutz and that Broncos special teams unit breathing a sigh of relief there. Talk
Yeah.
about, like, almost a year away from that
hmm
35-yard field goal that was blocked, and they were almost in that same exact position to go win it, and what a full circle moment to be able to do that. Broncos looked
hmm
awfully impressive. I'm gonna
hmm
let you kind of take away as we begin our observations from week 11.
Yeah. Um, I feel like this game we saw a lot more than anything. We saw a lot of change from Sean Payton, in terms of like how this offense looked like he was being coached, at least on the field, and I think that was ultimately one of the key deciding factors of the Broncos' victory over the Chiefs. Before I get super far into that, also, I think it's super understated how impactful Marvin Mims is, as a special teams player and just as an offensive weapon for the Broncos. Like the past 2 or 3 weeks, Marvin Mims has been out on with a concussion, and literally his first game back, he gets a punt return that literally flips the field and puts the Broncos' moderately stagnant offense basically in field goal position, regardless if if they were able to score or not. And then we just see a lot more of the field open up with the fact that Marvin Mims is the best deep threat on this team, forcing more guys underneath or allowing more guys to get open underneath, which is super good. And then the big thing, and then the big thing with Sean Payton this week against the Chiefs was pretty frequently he'd get the play call out a lot sooner than he has in the past couple weeks. Where I saw like a stat where it was like this game had the most times where Bo Nix had 15 seconds or more uh, exiting the huddle, and so it kind of just showcased that Bo Nix, when he's able to diagnose the defense, actually has quite a higher skill floor in terms of being able to read the defense and actually adjust himself and help adjust the offense for what he might read the defense doing. Because there was like a play that it was it was a big play I think that happened in like uh Chris Jones was saying that Bo Nix called what our defense was doing and literally adjusted the entire offense, and that's why a huge play opened up for them on like a third and long conversion that the Broncos
You're
were
talking
able to do.
about the dig route to Sutton?
It might have been.
Okay.
Because I think there's a couple, and so like yeah, just the fact that the Chiefs' defense was like Bo Nix was able to diagnose their defense exactly for what we were doing and make a play to combat that. Shows, I guess, the level that Bo Nix might be at. If you are giving him more time, and when you give him more time, he's able to set his feet more and feel more comfortable in that pocket, rather than being rushed. And then we saw, while he didn't have a passing touchdown, we saw the yardage in terms of passing yards come in for Bo Nix, which I think again was a huge deciding factor in terms of the overall outcome of the game.
And I want to harken back to a couple weeks ago when you've been talking about like Sean Payton and his penchant for screen passes.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm looking at their first drive and like looking at the out route to Pat Bryant, and then looking at a couple plays later, the big deep route to Sutton, and like just the checks, like the play action, just the dump offs to like Evan Ingram, like just the different ways. And yeah, I'm like seeing Marvin Mims's impact. You're seeing how they got the ancillary pieces more involved and how they got them involved on deeper routes, but also like you can throw it short on non-screen passes while still influencing the defense. And I thought they were really successful against the Chiefs in that early. And I'm hoping this game it kind of like serves as a springboard because now when you have a 3-game lead in the division, it gives you wiggle room to try out different things and whatnot. So um, you saw how a simple dump ball pass to Evan Ingram opens up running room for RJ Harvey, who also had a decent game too. So you you're looking at all these pieces and you're like, this is a very impressive Broncos win, but it's like, okay, how do we turn those 6 or 3 or 9 points in the first half into consistent offense in all 4 quarters? If they're able to do that, they're one of the most dangerous teams in the AFC. I know they're 9-2, and it sounds facetious to say, like, why were we questioning this before? But I think this game showed they're able to hang tough, and especially at Mile High with this kind of team, they can make a run. And I don't think we've been saying this for, like, the past 3 weeks. So this is a definite turning of the chapter, and I'd be excited if I'm a Broncos fan.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was just like sure, like it wasn't some crazy scoring offense again, like I said. Bo Nix didn't come out of this with a passing touchdown. So that might be like a technical knock on this. But again, I just look at how many yards this offense threw for and just like that ability to sustain long drives and make deep third and long conversions, second and long conversions. And then also just creating not as many of those long conversion scenarios due to just consistent passing across the field, across all 4 quarters, shows that this is what a Broncos team is capable of. And I think it comes down to like just the fact that, again, giving Bo time to diagnose the defense. I guess the strength of being an older quarterback with having a lot of experience in college is just going up to the line of scrimmage and seeing what the defense gives you and being able to make adjustments off of that. Whereas I feel like a younger quarterback might not be a strong suit. So you doesn't need, or you're relying more on your offensive coordinator, coaches to kind of predict what the defense ahead of time. That young quarterback has not as much responsibility to make snap adjustments. Bo Nix, 25-ish years old, has that as part of the skill set where he may in other physical aspects.
And I think the big thing too is, right, as I'm watching this offense too, like they seem to be very successful in the trips formation, where they have like 3 receivers off to one side of of their offensive line. And I see this and I'm like, okay, if this is like your best performing formation just from the eye test, why not lean into that more and then develop plays off of that? Where you're having success in the run game, you're having success like targeting guys underneath in the intermediate part of the field. Don't focus so much on your energy on the screen pass if it's not a great point to their personnel. And I'm hoping they lean into that. Just jumping onto the defensive side for a bit, Hufanga from the Broncos, that might be the biggest free agent deal that's not talked about enough in this past offseason. He has been like a number 1 option eraser for that team. Like, I know Travis Kelce had a heck of a game, but, like, every time you watch him on the field, he's like even when he was on the 49ers, he was giving Mahomes, like, tough problems. But, like, it seems like week in and week out, he's just, like, he knows where he needs to be. He knows how to attack the ball. And we'll get into another player on that defense who stood out. But he's just one guy that I think has been the most impactful on the Broncos defense. I know you got Bonito. I know you got Jonathan Cooper. I know you got Patrick Surtain. But it's guys like Hufanga who are kind of making this defense elite for what it is because he does all the little things right and he has such a high impact. So I just wanted to shout him out real quick.
Yeah, and I've been saying, Hufanga has really been the key off-season signing. Him and obviously J.K. Dobbins, unfortunately, got hurt, so he's out the rest of the season. But both, just getting pretty much a superstar impact player on both offense and defense, I think really opened up things for the Broncos. Whereas, last season, you had Cody Barton and Alex Singleton, who, were they're not very good at coverage. And then you had PJ Locke at the safety position, who is a decent backup. I'd say he's a good backup safety, but he was exposed quite a bit, last season as the starting safety in the wake of Justin Simmons moving to the Falcons last season. And so Having Hufanga and elite safety. Now you have like one of the better safety duos with him and Brandon Jones as your safety duo alongside all your other cornerbacks. And I think on top of that, just the defensive backs as a whole stepping up in Pat Surtain's injury, pull debacle that he's in where he's out for another couple weeks. Has really been incredible too, where you have Chris Abrams-Drain, who's been the outside corner, playing opposite of Riley Moss right now, and he's been pretty much as good as like any backup cornerback that you want, that is thrust into the starting position where he's able to lock down guys just as good as almost any other average corner that you find around the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll talk about another guy much later. But all right, let's dive into the film. I think there's a lot of fun stuff to get into here. So different clips, offense, defense. Let me see if I can. Okay, great. Alrighty, so we'll start off from the top here. Sean Tucker, I had him on my bench. I literally picked him up the Sunday of, and I wish I picked up Michael Wilson as well. But I was like, I think Shakir would be fine. Shakir proceeded to not even give me a point. He gave me 0.7. So I'm like, okay, well, but whatever. I just want to show you, like, he's been stuck behind the Bucks because they wanted to try out Rashad White, and then when Bucky Irving burst onto the scene, he kind of got lost in the weeds. But with all the injuries and kind of the split backfield, finally got his opportunity. Yes, he had 3 touchdowns. Yes, he had an insane catch. But I want you to watch some of like the 8-9 yard gains he's getting too. Corstian, talk to me on what you observe like as you're watching the clip unfold.
Yeah, I mean, I think this showcases what at least I think both of us have been decently high on Sean Tucker for quite a while at this point. At least I know personally for me, since his rookie year, I saw the potential that Sean Tucker had, and we just see that he has, the ability to read his blocks.
I was trying to pull up clips of like all his carries, but I'll do that in a tab.
Yeah, no. But yeah, no. So like, and then so he just he has solid, vision for a running back. Like this is what you want to see. Where he sees his pulling guard, and sometimes you have like the trap situation where the spot that he leaves kind of creates an opening, and then the guys, and you have the opportunity to cut that way. At this time, the guard creates that gap for him by pulling, and so he's able to follow that guard and get good yardage. And then we saw this throughout the game, obviously too, where he was just incredibly efficient. I think he had like a 44% snap share, so he was on the field less than half of the offensive plays, but he still had 19 carries in those limited down. I mean, it's not super limited, but that lesser amount of downs, and still, had a monster game from that.
Yeah, and even some of the runs that he's not getting, like that clip we shared. I'm gonna pause this so we can go back to what he did well on this rep. Like you see here, initially he wants to bounce this outside, but he sees a safety 21, and he uses his offensive line creating holes for him as leverage. So he's trying to keep 21 here, so he's not jumping into this gap. And then with a quick lateral step, he's able to get to where he wants to, and his objective is to hit 24. So even though he doesn't have the speed to get past these defenders, that's still positive yardage that keeps the offense on schedule. And some of these plays, like even when he's not getting yardage, he's not like trying to retrace and go like backwards and right and left and losing 3 yards. He's still moving forward north and south. Here on this play, he sees a pulling guard, so he takes it right, and that's what leads to the touchdown run. But outside of that, like you see him being really, really disciplined and trusting his blocking. And I think that's the big thing that will earn the coach's trust, but then also keep him on the field because you see the highlights. You see what he's been able to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a different angle of that 8-yard run here. But Sean Tucker, very impressive. I don't think he's going to suddenly overtake the backfield, but you can't tell me you're going to keep him on the bench once Bucky Irving comes back because he is a value add for this defense. This is, I honestly think this is another Rico Dotto resurgence. I don't think it's going to be as like as high of a ceiling as Rico Dowdle has been playing this season. Even though he had an incredible performance, but Sean Tucker can give you RB2 like value if he gets the coach's trust where he's splitting the carries. I truly believe that because you see the impact on limited snap shares he showed, and yeah, he's been fantastic.
Yeah, and like earlier today, I was looking through our divisional breakdowns, and we talked about this backfield in general, and it just happens to be a really stacked one. So even with this like excellent game, I still think he's a phenomenal runner, but it just so happens that Bucky Irving's supposed to come off of injury. Rachaad White ain't no scrub too, and so like it'll be interesting to see how they divide up the touches from here on out, because obviously, I mean, Bucky Irving, when fully healthy, you could argue is in that top 10 running back kind of range in terms of just overall efficiency and everything. But then you see obviously guys like him just showing out right here, right now. And then Rachaad White, in the first couple of weeks where Bucky was out, also had a couple excellent games. And so I think more than anything, like for fantasy, like it's always going to be a tricky game to be like, will this be a week that Sean Tucker just gets it going? But then from a football standpoint, I think it's just a really awesome piece to have that you can just rotate him in as well to give Bucky Irving a breather in addition to Rachaad White based off of what you think either or excel at in terms of their running schemes as a backup running back.
Yeah, and I think big picture here, fantasy aside, this is huge for the Buccaneers, especially as you get to November, December. The fact that you have 2 or 3 running backs that can give you great production on any given Sunday is huge for a team riddled with injuries at the wide receiver position. Like Cade Otton last year had like coming out party. Then he had Omega go off like he did towards the first half of the season. Once all these pieces come together and stuff, the fact that even if your passing game is not working, you can rely on this running game. I think that's a huge statement for the Bucs because you see them give up 44 to Buffalo, and it's like, okay, as a team, how do we play knowing that we have so much offensive firepower? Well, we have this great running game that's just burst on the scene now, and we have a great defense. We've always had a great defense. How do we limit teams from scoring, even though we have high-powered offense? The running game is one way to do that, and you have multiple cats that can do it now. So I think that's the biggest takeaway, if anything. Sean Tucker, great week, but for the Bucs, this is a great sign that they're able to get efficiency outside of Bucky Irving, even when he's hurt. They do it again. They do it again. Yeah. Alrighty. I want you to pay attention where Kyle Hamilton. I cannot pause it for some reason. Pay attention to where he's lined up here. He's lined up in a linebacker spot. He shoots through the gap, knocks down a 320-pound lineman, and makes the stop on Quinshon Judkins, who's having a phenomenal season in of itself. Just to put some more context into, let me see here. Kyle Hamilton's snap share, like by alignment, he's lined up at 3 safety 205 times. You would think that he would do that like the whole time, but he's also lined up as linebacker 132 snaps. This is not a one-off instance. In the slot, he's been 114 snaps. Edge player, almost 80. Cornerback, 19. Defensive tackle, 14. And strong safety, 1. He has played every single position for the Ravens this year. So like you like it's just not like other like, oh, let's mix and match our personnel in different spots. Like he's very impactful here in the play like this, and I'll try and pull out some other defensive snaps to show like his impact. But talk to me about Kyle Hamilton and how impressed you are by hearing all these snaps and the impact he's having.
Yeah. I think, I mean, obviously Kyle Hamilton is a phenomenal player, but I think this also speaks to the fact of how good the coaching staff is, just in general, getting guys to like, or working their schemes around guys to be able to have those specific players just magnify their overall like football playing abilities to its maximum. Where I mean, like I think, like in most systems, Kyle Hamilton will be a superstar anyways. But like a team, I feel like this feels like an innovative team. Where they're willing to move guys around and try to play to different strengths that these players have. I think we saw this many years ago with Lamar Jackson, right? Where I feel like Lamar in almost any other system probably doesn't develop the way that he does, that he has done under the Ravens. And then we see here where you have a guy who's you're able to throw him around anywhere. Because I think we look on another scenario of a safety player that felt like he could play anywhere, and that's Isaiah Simmons. Remember the hype around Isaiah Simmons and how he was supposed to be? Oh, he's like the future super soldier defensive player or whatever. He gets drafted to the Cardinals, like what, pick 11, pick 10, like around the 10th overall pick in the draft, right? And you're like, oh, this guy, you can put him anywhere and he's going to be a superstar. But then obviously we saw that nothing much happened out of that. It makes me kind of wish that the Ravens had picked up Isaiah Simmons in some capacity, because we're seeing here that they know how to develop players for one, and two, that they're able to move players around in a very fluid way to maximize all their potential. And so just being able to scheme him in so many, or Hamilton in so many different positions is actually really insane. I didn't realize he had that many snaps at all those different positions.
Yeah, and just to recap again, free safety 205 times, linebacker 132, slot 114, edge 80. Like I can list out cornerback, defensive tackle, and strong safety, but those are just the snaps from this season. And I think just to put that in context, it's not like he's been used one-off in these spots. They're building their defense like with the best possible players at the positions and stuff, and it's dependent on down and distance. So he's a matchup chess piece, and he is super like. There's a reason why they made that trade for Gilman. There's a reason why they let go of Owe. Like they're trying to remodel their defense based on what they've seen over this course of the season. And I think this is the last time I'm going to question the Ravens defense early in the season. They looked bad to start, but like this is 2 seasons now where they've completely morphed once November hit. And I have to give the defensive coordinator benefit of the doubt, Zach Orr. He's done a phenomenal job, like taking into account of who his team is, and like how to improve from there. So, hats off to the Ravens. Sucks Aaron Rodgers got hurt, but even without the injury, I think it would have been like a dogfight, just the way the Ravens have been trending up, and the Steelers not able to capitalize. So, really, really profound moment there. As for Shedeur Sanders, probably not going to get into too much. I just think it's crazy. He hasn't had any first team reps being a backup QB, and I'm just very, very confused on that situation. Like, regardless of like how good he actually is, like I think there was a quote from Wyatt Teller, or maybe it was Joe Bitonio, that they haven't even heard his cadence, and he was kind of like subbed in for Dylan Gabriel when he got concussed. That I think is malpractice, because you definitely don't want to be in that situation in November where like a quarterback on your team you've never played with before and got used to. And that's luckily they were at home, but like just imagine on the road, like not even hearing anybody and like trying to be like, oh, when is this quarterback going to snap the ball? That is just dysfunctional at its finest. And I don't know who's culpable for this, like owner, GM, coach. Is just that's just a bad sign. So that's all I got to say on that.
Yeah, well, I just keep on seeing with like the whole Shedeur Sanders situation too, where it's like most of the front office didn't really want to draft Shedeur Sanders, and it was kind of an owner's decision to say, hey, we're drafting Sanders right now. So obviously I think it's still some type of malpractice from the front office and like the coaching to not even give him as much, any like first team snaps at all. But at the same time, like part of me understands why, like to be a little petty about it, it's like, well, we drafted a guy we liked in Dylan Gabriel, whether or not, we both like Dylan Gabriel, and that's kind of this one thing, but it just, the Browns were a fan of Gabriel, and then they were pressured to draft another quarterback, and it kind of just messes up the whole situation. I think that at least the main front office is trying to go for. But Gabriel's out with concussion again. hopefully they'll actually give Sanders first team reps now with him being in the spot to, be a starter now. And then maybe hopefully, and I hope we see improvement because obviously it was a rough outing, but there's only so much you can do with what you're given, right?
Yep. And that's exactly the point I want to make. Like, the stats are the stats. I almost want to throw the stats in the garbage because he's not even put in a situation to learn and grow.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's probably like an even worse version than what Caleb had last season.
Mm-hmm.
And like you don't have a clear number one wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Like, running back is fine, but
Yeah.
outside of that and Myles Garrett, and that defense is fine, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that and the running game, this offense is not it. So
Yeah.
there's a lot out of Sanders' control where I can't be like, okay, he was a bust. I can't make that assumption right now because although Stefanski's Coach of the Year candidate, like, there's not an offensive system designed to help him grow. So I can't make that assumption there. So.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Moving on. Josh Allen, same game on the Bucks. I think this is what I'm seeing new with him and Jalen Hurts at this point in the season. We know they are capable of doing this, but 3 rushing touchdowns, like quarterback designed runs, like I think the Bills and the Eagles offense are going to start seeing improvement because they're getting the quarterback more involved in the run game. I think it's going to help out James Cook. It's going to help out the pass catchers around him, even though both passing offenses have been fairly inconsistent. I know Gabe Davis, that bringing him back was huge. At this point of his career, he's going to be great in the situational aspects. Terrell Shavers also had a great game. But, yeah, I think this kind of epitomizes like why Josh Allen is so dangerous as a quarterback. He's equally as dangerous with his arm, but like the design around him from this team, just great effort. So just want to highlight that 6 touchdowns in the game is just crazy.
Yeah.
But the way they're getting him those looks and touches and allowing him to showcase his talent is something I wanted to highlight with this clip.
Yeah. He's a stud. I don't know, like I'm a fan. So
yep. No analysis needed there.
Right? Like
we knew this. All right. Oh, blasted that one. Okay. All right. The cornerback you thought was always the truth, Ja'Quan McMillian. Yeah, they forgot an apostrophe there, but that's okay. He had a key stops here. Like, a sack to end the half was huge. You're seeing it now. Like, he came from depth to make this tackle, and I know Mahomes was probably looking for something deep, but that was huge in a tight ball game, trying to limit reps in the final 4 of the first and beginning 4 of the second. Second half. So this was, I think, even more impressive. Like, him being able to read Mahomes' eyes and make an instinctive play like that. That was just a heck of an interception. Which he took it the whole way, but Tyquan Thornton is kind of fast. So I'm not surprised about that. But yeah, had a heck of a ball game. And even this third down was a huge play. Huge play. It set up the Broncos game-winning drive. So yeah, doesn't bite. Very disciplined. Filling in for Patrick Surtain, like, what more could you ask for? This is the best possible scenario for the Broncos.
Yeah. Yeah, just really good game from McMillian right here. And like even last season, he was one of, I think he was rated one of the better slot corners or nickel corners in the league. And so I mean that was a big part of the reason why people are surprised that they drafted Ja'Day Barron, in the first round this last draft, because Barron like prototypes as a slot corner more than a outside boundary kind of guy. And so, yeah, and so I mean, we see it here again, right? Where it's like, dang, like they are a team that is really deep in the secondary, and I think a part of this too is, I mean, we look at last season when Riley Moss went down with injury, and then I think they had Levi Wallace playing a game. It was Levi Wallace was playing that game against the Browns or something, and that was the game, that Jameis Winston threw for like 1 million yards against the Broncos, and like at least half of those yards were against Levi Wallace, and the Broncos realized that if one of our cornerbacks goes down, we are in big time trouble. And so, you have McMillian here. You got Ja'Quan Barron, Chris Abrams-Drain, Pat Surtain, Ja'Quan Barron. You're like 5 cornerbacks deep with this defense, which is almost a must with how competitive, how good the quarterbacks in your division and conference are.
Yeah, and I mean, just to pick on Barron for a little bit, I think it was huge that they had him in the draft as well because you saw his impact last week, like just blanketing Kelsey. Like that's like I don't think you had that on your bingo card. Plus the performance that McMillian had, and like now again, speaking a little bit to like Kyle Hamilton and his kind of impact on the overall Ravens defense, to have guys like Barron and McMillian on the same team with the Surtain coming back, with the Riley Moss, we know how talented he is. Like now you can move all these guys around. Like you could send McMillian blitzing and feel comfortable with the coverage and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the Broncos just have a arsenal of like great defensive back play. So you kind of saw that on display last week.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Great game for your Broncos there. Last rep, I think it's a little bit again, another episode for the Patriots. Like we just talk about them every week. But I want you to look not at Drake May, but like I want you to look at Will Campbell. The way Will Campbell and Drake May work together to like make this play happen. If either like isn't aware of like what the other's trying to do to support them, this pass attempt doesn't go off. And I think Drake May, one, he doesn't drift constantly back in the pocket. He stops, he waits to find an angle and then throws it. And that's so helpful for an offensive lineman because it allows them to like reestablish their position and finish the rep. And for Campbell, who was a high draft pick, like he rewarded him by like literally pancaking the guy after. So yeah, this is just a great rep on like how teamwork between the quarterback and tackle have to work in tandem for the offense to flow. So it's one.
Yeah, I mean that's just like the value you get from drafting an offensive lineman so high in the draft that everybody's prospecting to be a superstar. Kind of reminds me of the decision that the Bengals made between Jamar Chase and Penei Sewell, right? Where it's like there's an alternate reality here where the Patriots, instead of going O-line here, they draft like Ted McMillan or Emeka Egbuka, right? And you're like, wow, you got Drake May, the superstar receiver that everybody's hoping that he gets. But then like can he make those plays if he doesn't have the superstar left tackle being able to pull that off for him? So honestly, huge props to the front office for building the trenches and focusing on that, and then letting Drake May cook, because the guys they have, while they're not like the bona fide best of the league, they're still solid wide receivers that obviously we've seen week in and week out. One or two of them have like a superstar game.
Yep. Well said. I couldn't have said it better myself. Like I think Jamar Chase versus Penei Sewell is a very difficult conversation. Both are like elite players. But you got to look at where your team's at, right? If you're a team that doesn't have an established lineman, this is the best time to get a premier offensive lineman because you're impacting your running game, your passing game, multiple fronts. And they don't get enough credit, but the Patriots are doing just fine with Stephon Diggs on the wrong side of 30, Kayshon Boutte, and Demario Douglas. So they didn't need Emeka Egbuka as much as the tantalizing prospect of having him and Drake May on the same team. That would have been crazy. But yeah, I agree. It's all about team building. There's a reason why the Bears invested so much in offensive line over last offseason and why tackle is so coveted in the league. So yeah, full-heartedly agree. That wraps up our film study. If you guys had other clips or other players you wanted to be shouted out and they weren't able to, let us know. And look forward to next week for the next 5 we got. So speaking of 5, Corstian, any change to the list, or what do you got for us in your power?
There are some changes in this list. What's funny though is the bottom 6 teams just in the league have stayed the same. Just funsies.
Okay, cool.
But okay. Anyways, top 5 though. So our number 5 team in the league is the Philadelphia Eagles. I know you were dissing on me for not having the Eagles in this top 5 group last week. But I feel like, they had that tough win against the Packers, and you're like, okay, maybe we got something here. And then they managed to get a tough win versus the Lions. There was some iffy calls by the end of that, in terms of like a defensive holding or something. But ultimately, the Eagles did win this game, and so props to them, giving them the number 5 spot. Number 4 is the Denver Broncos. Number 3, the New England Patriots. Number 2, the Indianapolis Colts. And number 1 are the Los Angeles Rams.
Wow. Okay, so you dropped Seattle all the way out of the top 5
Yeah.
after last week, and you pulled in the Broncos and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yes.
Making their debut in the list. Wow, I was not expecting that. Honestly, I can't argue with it because the Broncos and the Eagles keep winning, even though it's not pretty. And they're beating all the good teams. Like, you look at what the Eagles did, like holding the Green Bay Packers to 7 points and the Lions to what, like 10 or 13, was it? Like, I forget. Like,
Yeah.
just that in and of itself, like, warrants them being top 5. So I have no issues with the list. Like, Rams should be 1. Where did you say you had the Colts? Did you have them 3?
Colts at 2.
Colts at 2. Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the Seattle should be 5 or 4 because they were a Myers field goal away from winning that game.
Yeah.
And they did hold the Rams offense after scoring 14. The Rams scoring 14 in the first quarter. They were insane on defense. So that's probably the only question mark, but I can't argue with the teams on the list currently.
Yeah. Well, where do you think I have the Seahawks at?
6.
Yeah, I have them at 6. So it's like they're one spot out of this top 5. So are they like it feels like a drastic drop, especially because the Seahawks have been in this top 5 basically since I started it after week 6. But then it's like yes, it was a close game, and that's why they're still the number 6 team in my power rankings right here. But also it's like you can't have Sam Darnold throwing 4 interceptions. Albeit it's against an elite Rams defense, as we've seen, throughout the course of this season. And so it's like, sure, he threw those 4 picks, but again, it's against one of the better defenses in the league. And even still, again, it was a Jason Myers field goal away from winning. And so they were still able to stay in the game despite the deficiencies, which kind of just shows kind of on the greater scale than the Bears, where it's like when one part of the team struggles, the other teammates or other, positions, other spots of the field are able to help compensate for that, where, Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet are still, a great running back duo that can help compensate for the offense. Jay Sens is going to be good regardless. And then obviously the defense still played a really good game against the Rams. It wasn't like some blowout or it wasn't even like a shootout that necessarily happened between these two teams. And so, one part struggled to Sam Darnold, but then the rest of the team played exceptionally well. But ultimately, yeah, it's like, these other teams have been winning. I mean, Seahawks have been too, but like when you lose, you got to drop a little bit. It was really close between the Eagles and the Seahawks at the number 5 spot for me, but then it's like the Eagles won. They've been on this upward trajectory. I'll give them the number 5 spot at least for now.
And they beat like most of the playoff teams, like that are currently slated for the NFC. So yeah, we'll see. We shall see. Any thought to having the 49ers like in the top 5 conversation? I know Brock Purdy just returned, but they continue winning, and I almost feel like their ranking is like, how do you know where to put them? Because they've been having so much success despite not having their starting quarterback and so many injuries. So where do you have them on this list?
Yeah, they're like kind of just around the middle of the pack for now.
Okay.
Which feels it's like it's a tough spot to put them at the in the middle, because I feel like they kind of deserve it higher. But then also I look at the fact that they just kind of smashed the Cardinals, which are a garbage team, which is, I mean, it's something that you should be able to do. If you're a good team, you smash the Cardinals because they're not a good team. But then it's like, and so it was a good showing for, a lot of people's, like, were Brock Purdy's first game back from injury. And then I mean, I don't know how the rest of their schedule is looking for the 49ers, but it's like if you play good against a bad team, but theoretically you might play bad against a good team, and then you're like, okay, I guess middle of the pack is a justified ranking. So likely next week, this there's a lot of moving parts from ranks 10 through 17 on this list are a lot of moving part teams. And so there's a lot of wiggle room, at least in this section for me, where the 49ers could easily jump to like a top 10 team following certain teams losing next week.
Yeah. And as we see the NFC West and like the NFC North games play out, I'm sure there'll be a lot more movement. Speaking of which, we're gonna keep the same topic with the playoff picture talk. I know you've done a review on how we projected records and stuff, so we'll bake that into this. A lot of moving changes here. Has your opinion changed about any of these teams in the NFC and AFC? I know there's one potential one with how the Chargers and the Jaguars game played out, and despite that game, the Chargers are still ahead of the Jaguars in the seeding column. So
Yeah.
very interesting spot there. Bears obviously super happy to see them first place leader in the NFC North and number 3 seed, while the Lions are out. Very surprising after a tight game with the Eagles. So talk to me about like, has your opinion changed, especially with your Broncos leading the AFC currently?
Yeah, I think this game against the Chiefs really flipped the script of like the offense. I mean, red zone success is one thing where they weren't very good at the red zone. But outside of that, I think the offense really did flip the script for the Broncos, showing that they can move the ball in some semblance compared to like what they did against the Jets and the Raiders. And so for me, I feel like that moved the Broncos into a contender section, especially just with like, I look at the defense as well, where it's like having an average offense, maybe, with this elite level of defense that's also missing Pat Surtain right now. I think keeps this Broncos team in pretty much any game in the playoffs. So they've moved up, I think, to a contender for me. But also, like we talked about the Chargers being contenders, but like I was texting you this too, that the Chargers are just the Cowboys of the AFC, right? Where it's like on paper, the Chargers probably should be like the scariest team to go through, maybe the second scariest team on the AFC side. But then it's like you look at the performance versus the Jaguars. Which then goes to show us like, are the Jaguars maybe a little bit more competitive than we thought? But honestly, I feel like I have like the Steelers, the Chargers, and the Jaguars almost all in the same tier of like competitiveness, where we've seen all three of those teams have excellent, phenomenal games. You're like, this is going to be a scary team come playoff time. But then we've also seen all three of those teams like lose in embarrassing fashion, and we're like, yikes, like maybe I do want to go against that team in the playoffs. But that's just kind of my take, at least on the AFC side of things.
The Jaguars just confuse me because they're just up and down at weeks you just don't expect. Like Trevor Lawrence, like in short to intermediate passes, love him. But for some reason, the deep passing game with him and Brian Thomas is not working this season. I don't think the Jacoby Myers trade was an accident. I think they're trying to move to a different philosophy under Liam Cohn. And I wouldn't be surprised if Brian Thomas is on his way out as early as it is in his career, because he just does not work well with Trevor Lawrence, and the amount of money they put into Trevor Lawrence, like I'm not speaking from a financial aspect. Like I don't know if the organization will be patient enough to try and work Brian Thomas in some capacity. Now saying this, he's going to have 10 receptions for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns next week, of course. But yeah, like the Jaguars, just you've seen how good their defense was, like at the start of the year, and then clearly they had an effect on the Chargers this week. But if I don't know, I feel like they also play better at home. So I've like it's hard for me to call them like close to contenders when they're likely not ripping the division away from the Colts,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to go on the road for the wild card round, and that's not their strong suit. They're used to playing on road at home and doing well at home. So, um, I don't know if I wanna put them in the contenders yet, even after, like, a solidified beatdown. I think it says more about, like, the Chargers have a long way to go to be the
Mm-hmm.
consistent force they wanna be in the playoffs. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or it feels like, I mean, obviously, if you're in the playoffs, it really does become a case of, any given Sunday. But it seems like the Jaguars, Chargers, and Steelers are the most reliant on. Hopefully, this is one of those any given Sunday weeks for us when competing against the other 4 current playoff teams. Or like on paper, I'm like the Bills, Colts, Patriots, and Broncos probably beat all 3 of those other teams, and then
I
those
agree.
teams are, and like then those 4 teams going against each other almost feels like a toss up of like, they're both really competitive rosters that'll have like a really cool and tough matchup. Whereas, and then you just have the Steelers, Chargers, and Jaguars hopefully this Sunday in the playoffs is the game that like everything just happens to click for us at the right time, and we manage to get the win against this team that we probably shouldn't be beating.
Yep. Moving on to the NFC, I look at this and I'm like, okay, should I lower the Buccaneers based on the amount of contenders losing to? I'm not sure because I had this team as contenders, I think. I'll have to look back at last week's episode to be confirmed,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I have to lower them a peg from where I had them because seeing how they performed against Buffalo, the Eagles, and some of these other teams, like, I don't have confidence if they were matched up with the Rams, Seahawks, or the Eagles
Mm-hmm.
that they're gonna get out of that with a win. I know they're
Mm-hmm.
gonna be competitive, and I know they're gonna fight, but I have no idea where that's gonna lead. So, for me, I was a little bit less optimistic on the Buccaneers just because, like, it's more like there's levels to this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I actually didn't waver from the Seahawks
Yeah.
because I think it showed obviously Sam Darnold was the main culprit for the loss.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really look at his first interception, it's not a bad interception at all. Like, it was if
Mm-hmm.
anything, it was a great play by the defender. The other 3, I think the moment just got to him where he felt like he had to press, especially because of the
Mm-hmm.
first interception and making up for it so much where he felt like he had to carry the load where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
"No, dude. You got JSN. You got
Mm-hmm.
AJ Barner who you're peppering as targets. You got Cooper. You got guys now, and you got a system, and you got a defense who's providing you with consistent opportunities. Just manage the game and don't be uber aggressive." And I think sometimes you just become so aggressive to the fault where it hurts the team. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping this game shows like a learning lesson here because I think last year you kind of saw that too late with the Detroit game and the Rams game. But then there's other part of me is like, is this going to be a consistent problem against the Rams? And they just can't match up Sam Darnold with the Rams. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because as long as they don't face the Rams, I think the Seahawks are contenders. Because you look at that defense, it's like, despite 4 interceptions, they almost won the game. And they've
Mm-hmm.
held a really, really great Rams offense, who you have number 1 on your rankings,
Mm-hmm.
like, to limited yards, and that's really difficult to do. So, I'm not wavering on the Seahawks, to be honest. Um, I don't wanna put the 49ers as contenders yet, but I feel like they have to be based on, like, how they looked under Brock Purdy, so I wanna
Mm-hmm.
wait another week, but those are the 3 teams that come to mind when I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at the NFC.
Yeah. Yeah, on the NFC side of things too, I'm like, Seahawks don't really lose much for me in this loss. Obviously, it was in some ways, obviously with the interceptions, it was a decently ugly loss. But then also, I go back to my power rankings, and they're like still my number 3 NFC team in the league right now. And so it's like, especially with just like these top teams, there's always these alternate scenarios where it's like Sam Darnold, finds his rhythm like early in the game, and then this game just turns into an absolute shootout. and all of a sudden it's a completely different story. You know, we're talking about with these teams, and and like when you are of this upper echelon of teams, like just like you will have like a bad game against a good team. Like it just kind of it's just something that happens when you face tough competition, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like honestly in my initial rankings, I spend a decent amount of time like moving around teams, just because I felt like there's a lot of good teams, or at least like average to above average teams. There's a lot, and so it's like does the team really belong here? So initially, the Seahawks only fell to number 3 to me, but then I was like, I mean, it was a tough loss to have at the moment, especially you're fighting for the division lead, you lose and kind of. It felt like an unfortunate loss in some ways. You lose, you missed the game-winning field goal, all the interceptions and everything. So have you bumped it down to 6? But I mean, I agree with you. Seahawks are still a contender to me. The Rams are a contender, and I think Eagles are probably a contender at this point too.
I agree. I'd move them up to contenders if I didn't have them up there already.
Yeah, and then I think the Buccaneers may have dropped into that like any given Sunday caliber, but I think they're the best of the any given Sunday teams, where it's like comparing the Buccaneers, the Packers, I'll say the Bears, Steelers, Chargers, and Jaguars. Buccaneers are probably at the top of that list for me in terms of who I think probably wins out. Like,
Well, where do you have the Lions, assuming they make the playoffs? In that
Lions. Honestly, Lions and Buccaneers are maybe like equal for me.
I might put the Lions above, but I think it depends on the O-line health. Because I think with the Lions, you saw that on display when their O-line was mismatched against the Eagles and they started coming down with injuries. That kind of derailed the entire offense. And I kind of talked about this at the start of the season and post week 1. Like if they're having an aggression to the O-line, that kind of forget the offensive production, like being what it is and explosive, because that's going to impact the timing of the play action and the running game and stuff. Like Jahmyr Gibbs is still going to get his, but like guys like Amon-Ra, St. Brown, like he's not going to get his rhythm targets and stuff because the offense is going to be thrown out of rhythm. And I think you kind of saw like Jahmyr Gibbs and Jameson Williams step up because they're just it's hard to match up with them as athletes. But when you're talking about the entire rhythm of the offense, Jared Goff was thrown off his game. So that's something to watch out for because I would the way I would structure this is Eagles, Rams, Seahawks, clear contenders. Lions just below, and then maybe Buccaneers 2 pegs below. Like in that kind of cadence, because I think I don't the Bucs haven't proven they can beat any of these contenders, and the Lions prove that they can, but if they get matched up with these top 3 contenders, it's more like it'll be more difficult for their offense to be the same, but they will still stay in it. It's weird for me because it's fully dependent on their offensive line health, and even then, like I can't trust that they match up well with those defensive lines on those contenders. It's weird. I might have them equal too. I just don't know how to value that.
Yeah, because like the tricky thing with the Lions is so Dan Campbell has taken over play calling, and so we've obviously seen I think the improvement over the last we're doing at least in terms of getting Jameson Williams the ball. But I think the flaw with Dan Campbell's at least calling this most recent week against the Eagles was there was 2 opportunities for field goals that I think would have kept them a lot closer in the games. That's 6 points, right? That they ended up going for on 4th down, did not convert the 4th down, which obviously, results in not the points that you need to make to achieve this comeback. And so it's like Dan Campbell getting better in some ways at some of that situational play calling as, being the lead play caller for this offense. Is one thing I'd like to see as an improvement, but obviously I know a big part of the Lions culture is going for it on 4th downs and kind of just like, these high risk, high reward style plays. And then I look at the Buccaneers too, and you're like, have them down a couple pegs as well. But then it's like Buccaneers with, you're hoping Chris Godwin is fully healthy come playoff time. Bucky Irving's going to be back for the playoffs. You might have Ja'Quan McMillian back around playoff time. And all of a sudden, it's like your offense that can compete in any shootout just got way scarier of a team to really go head to head against. And so it's like, even if the defense has kind of been the weak point of the Buccaneers, we've seen that they haven't won these shootouts, especially like with the Buffalo Bills right here. But it's like, honestly, until like those last couple drives, the Buccaneers were very much in this shootout.
Yeah,
With Tez Johnson as your number 2, and like, no shade to Tez Johnson, like he's been balling out. He's a dog in my opinion, but like him as your number 2 is not the ideal situation to have, and then you're rolling out with Sean Tucker, who we're both fans of, but ultimately he still is the number 3 running back on your team. Most teams, he's still probably the number 2 back. And so that's kind of the system that you're rolling out with. Mike Evans is out.
Oh. You're good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just a note on the Bears. I haven't mentioned them much on this episode. I'm kind of in a wait and see approach with them because their schedule, this upcoming schedule, is going to tell me a lot about them. Like, obviously, probably not the Steelers game because Aaron Rodgers is down, and probably not going to get a lot out of that. But starting with the Eagles game, I'm going to keep a close eye on them to see, like, okay, how far can they really go? I'm pessimistic when it comes to that. But if they hit 9 or 10 wins, I'm happy with the season overall. If they surprise me and they're somehow able to pull out come from behind wins and the Eagles, the Lions, and the Packers, I'll be ecstatic. I'd be super excited. I'm like, I wasn't expecting this. Like, then I have to put them as contenders with anybody. The thing that stops me is, can they get turnovers and pressure against these contender teams? Like, that's going to be a big – and I'm going to put the Packers in that discussion for the Bears particularly because they always up the ante for those matchups, being a historic rivalry. So for the Bears, beating the Packers is like winning a playoff game. And Lions, obviously, cream of the crop of the division for the past couple years. Eagles, Super Bowl champion. Those games are going to be important. So, like, how they look coming out of those games will determine where I have them as pretenders. So right now I have to put them as pretenders because last season they were where they were at. And this season is completely different. It's been inspiring to watch. But coming back against the J.J. McCarthy-led Vikings team, which you led by 13, not exactly inspiring to me, considering some of the interceptions J.J. McCarthy's thrown and how off-target he's been on like some situations. I get it; it's his first year playing, but from a Bears angle, being a number 3 seed, it kind of feels like a false hope kind of thing right now.
Yeah,
this is me hedging my bets on the 2018 Bears, so this is not coming from 2025 Bears.
Yeah, I think it'll be a tough road to maintain division leader, I think, for the Bears. But ultimately, I still think they have a decent shot of being a playoff team, which I think is the most exciting part in some capacity. When you've been out of the playoffs for quite a while, just seeing that your team finally made the playoffs, you're like, am I reaching the light at the end of the tunnel? Like, are we almost there yet? And I think that part's really exciting. But man, I keep on saying it. I said it even at the start of the season. Like, this culture change with Ben Johnson is going to be insane for the Bears. I was like, I was talking about like last season. If Ben Johnson's here, they don't go on that game, like that 9-game slide or whatever. That Bears team of last season probably finishes close to 500 with a Ben Johnson, coach at the helm in some ways. I mean, like, you win half of those games that on that 9-game slide, you're at 500, right? For the Bears.
Yeah.
And so it's like 4 more games. Ben Johnson could do that. And we see that here as well. And also I do think with teams like the Bears and the Patriots, I think next season will be a really solid test for both of those teams, especially if Bears do at least get second place in the division, just because both those teams are going from a worst to first type situation where obviously like your schedule is objectively easier in some ways. That first kind of rebound season, I think we saw that a lot with the Commanders last season, maybe where they played really good football, obviously, but also you were 4th place the prior season, so naturally you have a fair amount of opponents that aren't quite as strong as well. And then we kind of see them struggle a little bit more this season. So it's kind of that wonky, like 1 year window of worst to first type resurgence. And then I'm excited to see how the Bears add on and the Patriots add on, because I think this upcoming offseason, I'm talking about offseason, but this is an upcoming offseason I think is going to be super important for both of those teams in terms of they're going to maintain or sustain the success that they've seen this season.
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out for me is we need cornerback depth, and Deshaun Wright is like 1 week I'm like super upset with him, and then let's talk about a crazy interception and honoring his late college coach who passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that what a great moment for him. So you see the high upsides with him, and you're just hoping he increases consistency, but getting secondary depth and solidifying that as long as like increased edge pressure. I know it's been tough with some of the guys going down with injury that you've had high hopes for, but
Mm-hmm.
Austin Booker, Joy Tryon-Shoyinka, you just traded for, some of the guys coming off of injury, around Montez Sweat, and then
Mm-hmm.
trying to really, really build that defensive line to get more pressure was gonna really help Dennis Allen scheme. And then thinking about Kevin Byard, he's on the wrong side of 30 coming up and,
Mm-hmm.
like, getting more out of Jaquan Brisker outside of Blitzer. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the things that stand out to me, as well as, like, continuing to build the offensive line the right way, so your left tackle's not like, "Okay, we'll just roll out Theo Benedict up there," and you get a really, really great left tackle. As great as Benedict is playing, like, I want
Mm-hmm.
that to be really, really, really strong, where it's like, you got, like, a Joe Alt talent there. This is gonna be a
Mm-hmm.
wish, but if the Bears can get to those and target those as, like, what they're looking for, I think they'll be in a good spot, plus a great running back. So, there's still a couple holes, in my opinion, but I hope they can make the playoffs. I'd be super happy they can. It's been a long time coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. My dad, who's also a Bears fan, is pretty ecstatic just the fact that the Bears are even in the realm of being the number 3 seed in the NFC playoff push right now. So super exciting for them. It's crazy though is the Panthers are sitting at 6-5, basically half a game behind the Buccaneers. What do you make of that?
You read my mind. I was just about to ask you that if we had time, and we clearly do. Um, I think they're gonna be right there at the end. I don't see them
Mhm.
moving the needle that much unless the Packers completely fall off
Mhm.
or for some reason the 49ers completely fall off. I
Mhm.
know that seems like an obvious answer, but until either and it kinda hurts that they lost to no, they beat the Packers, right? They beat them just a couple weeks
Oh
ago.
yeah.
So, if they can get 2 games on the Packers, that I think they can do it. I
Mhm.
I I think they can make the playoffs. It really depends on how the other teams do because I don't see the Seahawks, Rams, Eagles slipping, and the Buccaneers haven't exactly lost embarrassing games.
Mhm.
So, I need to see their schedule, actually, because 'cause I'm wondering if they're gonna face each other, 1 game back, that's gonna be a massive difference. So, actually, they haven't even played each other yet. They play each other December 21st and Jan 4th.
Mhm.
So, this becomes a lot more interesting
Mhm.
because I think the Buccaneers are division winners at this point. I thought the Falcons would pose like, a threat to them at the start of the season, I believe, but that quickly has gone downhill, and
Mhm.
the Panthers are kind of, like, hung around, like, stuck up in there. So, like,
Mhm.
that winning the division might be their only chance because right now the Lions are outside looking in, Packers and 49ers. They're strong teams,
Mhm.
but I consider the Packers pretenders,
Mhm.
and that's an avenue that the Panthers can go down if they're not able to overtake the Bucks.
Mhm.
But those last 3 weeks of the season are gonna be huge for this team.
Mhm. Yeah. It's kind of just funny how Bryce Young looks like vintage Brady when he faces the Falcons this year so far, where both the games have been just absolute master classes by the offense, basically, with Bryce Young going against the Falcons.
They have their number. I don't know how to explain it because they were a pretty good defense to start, and it's,
Mhm.
yeah, it's he clearly he clearly plays well against the Falcons. Another way to explain it.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. That'll do it for us. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Amana Mission podcast. You can follow our Instagram channel listed below. Full-length videos are an Amana mission. 3 words there. We hope you enjoyed this. Corstian, let's keep this rolling. Let the Broncos and the Bears finish top 3 in their conferences. That's all we can ever ask for.
Yeah.
Let's ride the Bears. Good,
The
better,
Bears.
best. I want all of it. So, till then, we'll see you guys next week. Corstian, close us out, man.
Yeah. Peace.